Hey guys, we are back to another episode of the Next Fix podcast. Today, we've got a gentleman and professional in the addiction and recovery space. His name is Austin Davis. And so I'm excited to see and hear about what he's doing, especially with the youth. So, hey, Austin, welcome to the show, brother.
Hey, Ryan, appreciate you having me this morning.
Good. And you're hailing from Texas, right?
Yeah, man, the great city of Fort Worth.
Fort Worth. It's right there in the name. It's Worth.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, I know we like to open up the show and we like to know that we're talking to one of us. So I want to know like how you ended up getting into the space, meaning like, mental health and addiction and recovery. So how's it impacted your life and really what sparked your attention to all us beat up and addicted folks out here?
Well, it's a fun, working with teenagers, especially our boys. I've got long hair. I usually got a big scruffy beard. If I'm at any gas station by myself on a motorcycle, somebody's going to ask me for weed, that's kind of how I look,
Okay. Yeah.
And so our boys, like I'm on campus and they're like, man, Mr. Austin, what drugs do you use? What was your DOC or whatever? And I'm like, I didn't. I didn't use drugs. My path was really different. I was like, but let's talk about your parents' divorce. When was that? And I remember seeing that. I remember hearing you say that in a group. And I was like, okay, well, like mine was 10. Let's talk about, you had somebody get shot or something, right? Like I remember that in your story or in some paperwork. Yeah, it was my best friend, we grew up together. I was like, man, you know what? Like I lost my brother when he was 18, I was 21. He died on a motorcycle, like right in front of me. I was like, wow. You keep complaining about this step 3 and step 4 that you hate God and blah, 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 blah. I was like, have you ever been kicked out of a church? And I was like, I have. And I was in seminary. Yeah. I was in
Hold on. Yeah. Get into that. We want to hear about this. Why would you? It's like, I want to hear it. Like, I want to hear it, man. Tell me.
Yeah, I mean, so at 15, my best friend, I played basketball and I played baseball. And so my best friend in high school, he was the weed man. Like we were the two biggest dudes in the school. He carried weed and I carried a Bible. It was just the oddest thing because like the year before I went to church for the first time, didn't grow up in the church, all that kind of thing. And that was my first okay, this is not the direction I want to go. And that just kind of led to me going to an undergrad and getting a degree in pastoral ministries. I thought I was going to be a youth pastor and work in a local church, which I did. Then went to seminary, and in that seminary journey, continued to work with kids in local church. But those conversations transitioned from exegeting things in Romans to dude, why'd you get kicked out of the house? What's going on with those school grades? So I was doing counseling and therapy kind of stuff in people's homes and with parishioners. And so went back and got a master's in counseling, and that journey just accelerated. I started working in psych hospitals, started doing case management, a lot of the grunt work of early clinical stuff, and then started working with adults in the rehab space. And so,
well, hey, I'm sorry to pump the brakes on you. I'm gonna bring you back for a second. Let me ask you: were you still friends with the weed guy? Because in my journey, it's my buddies that started smoking weed and everything, I stopped being friends with them because they were doing drugs, and I went the other way. Then I went back the other way and did all the drugs. Were you like, hey man, how did that relationship look? Like here he is, he's choosing a path. Here you are, you're choosing a different path. Did you shut down that relationship? Did you use what you were into, what your attention was on to try to help him out? How did that unfold?
It basically, we just became athletes together.
Okay.
I sat in the front of the bus with coach because I knew all the guys got baked before the game and
right.
we're going to, eat Cheetos in the back. And so it was just I guess I had some awareness enough to know that once 3 or 4 of them get picked up on the side of the road at 2 a.m., I don't want that.
Right.
And
which is a blessing. That's a blessing.
Yeah. So the friendship just kind of, and after high school we were done, he went his ways and I went mine, but it was just that continual, just awareness of what I didn't want.
Right. Now, what about him? Did you have it? Were you compelled to help him? Like, did that play a role in like your decision to like help the youth, or like how did that develop? You know, you had mentioned somebody had been shot. Am I right? So like, what was the spark that was like, hey man, I'm gonna make a difference here?
Yeah, so I guess that spark was that I mean, I'm just going to call it calling. And I really wasn't aware. See, I didn't think I was going to do substance use. Like I didn't, like it wasn't. And after I got into it, I was like, oh my gosh, I grew up with an uncle I don't think I've ever seen sober, and we saw him
Mm.
twice a week, right? Like dad had
Right.
significant substance use issues after divorce. After my brother died, I think my mom was, just drinking tequila as she woke up, like so.
Yeah.
It has been all around me, and I know for myself, like the propensity or predisposition to just go off the rails is right there. So it's like I identify with all the addiction behaviors because I've worked with it for 20 years now, and so it's like I know I'm so close to the edge, and it's like an absolute no for me in a lot of things. Just like I have a glass of wine or something, but there's just
Yeah.
it's all around me, and so I have to be real careful.
What about back then? Because my father, my mother, both addicts, both alcoholics. My father's clean, but I have no relationship with him and all of that. But back then, was it? Did you get angry? Were you like, or were you angry, or were you more like compassionate? Like, man, I'm gonna study even harder because I'm gonna help people like you, mom, and like you, dad, like and your uncle and everything. Well, which one was it? Or a mixture of both?
Yeah, again, the kind of calling wasn't in the view of my life yet. I didn't think I was going to do that, but
Oh, okay.
as a kid, dude, I was an angry kid. I pitched and I played basketball, and I didn't realize it. Like all of those things that had gone. It wasn't until I was 20 years old, 22 years old that I was like this is real stuff. All the stuff in the group room that I'm helping these dudes process, like, oh, that's me. I just didn't do cocaine with it. But yeah, I was, I've been thrown out of basketball game after basketball game just because, I watched Dennis Rodman too much as a kid.
Man, that's a throwback. I'm a Rodman fan. But yeah, so I mean, well, you're struggling with. I mean, you're a hormone factory, right? Like, and I
Yeah.
see that. I see that even in my own nephew. I mean, he's just. I could see him like just doing his best, but he's like half a Neanderthal and too strong and big for his own good. So
Yeah.
it's almost like a liability. But like you were blessed enough to at least see the light, especially with like scripture and your faith. And so, man, that's a huge marker of your path. It's been a part of it the whole time. Am I right?
Yeah. Since about 15. And I think I kind of traded those groups of friends for like my church friends. It's really cliche, but that's really what happened was like there's a youth pastor who started showing up at games and started, like investing in me. And that's, why I didn't go off the rails. I mean, it's just like all my cousins have been in jail at one point or another. That's kind of where I grew up and how I grew up. And it was just really, truly by the grace of God that he kind of plucked me out and set me aside for a different path. And so now I get to give that gift to hundreds of kids a year.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, dude, I remember being in high school, and I wasn't an athlete. I chose the partying and everything, and people knew it. Everybody, it was not a secret. But I would go occasionally to a Bible study. And I remember this guy, his name is Dustin, and I would show up and people knew what I did on the weekends. People knew this, but like even till this day, I remember the like two guys that never shunned me, man. They would tell everybody, like, everybody has a right to be there. Cause every once in a while, somebody'd say, like, hey, everybody in this room, it doesn't this, and that. And they were protesting against me, but I remember to this day. And by the way, I'm a believer. I read scripture every day, almost every day. But I remember those two guys, man. You know what I mean? The guys that didn't judge me, the guys that were around, and like it made a difference in my faith. Now it didn't do too much of a dent at the time, because but it's so cool to me to know that there's guys like yourself, and it was Dustin and a guy named Chris, but they were a big part, man. They set everybody apart. They made the difference.
Mm-hmm.
Play a piece in the puzzle of how I view faith these days, right? And so you're out there doing the right thing, and so, but you did choose a different path. I want to know more. So you do all this studying, right? And then you said you hadn't, your calling wasn't clear yet. So I want to know when that was. When was that, like, boom, here it is, like God spoke to me, and it's like,
Yeah,
I'm on.
so I'm in my last year of seminary. It's kind of in two parts. I'm in my last year of seminary. One of my professors who invested in me in undergrad, he was a therapist, and so I had taken a bunch of his classes in undergrad. But it really just kind of came to a head when I literally got kicked out of the church. I was, helping on Wednesdays with the kids. I was playing guitar, I was teaching Sunday school. Like, I'm in it, right? Like, this is my vocation for the next 50 years. And the funny thing is, it's like I had a 6-pack of Blue Moon, and I was in this very legalistic kind of environment, and married, like everything was great. I had a 6-pack of Blue Moon, and somebody came over and they were like, "Oh my God, Austin drinks. He must not know Jesus anymore." And the whole house of cards fell down in front of my face, and I was broken. And it was just really clear, like, okay, like this, I had already been moving in that direction of like, okay, I think this counseling thing is where I want to live and do this for my life and make, I could cuss and not get kicked out, like I could do different things and be me in this other environment. And it didn't match here. And so that was the crux, really, like that pushed me there. And then God just continued to unveil like different scenarios and things like, this is the right thing.
So Claire, I'm sorry to interrupt you. When you say kicked out, brother, like what does that mean? Like, in my mind, just so you know, in my mind, I see the narrative like they're like grabbing you by the robe and like opening the door, like tossing you out. But what did it look like? They sat you down. They said, "Hey, that's out. You had alcohol." They didn't even see you drinking it. So yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so
Let me know.
it was our best friends, and I can't believe I'm saying this on, this was kind of a real close to the vest thing, and it's 20 years ago, so God's done grace, right? I had friends like literally sit me down and say, "You're not good enough to be our friends anymore." There's another married couple our age, and so those words almost tattooed on my neck. It's like that. That's how impactful they were, and it was just a series. Like the pastor kind of had lunch and sat me down and kind of said the same things. Like, "Look, if you're going to do this, then you can't be here." And it was just kind of this general shunning of what,
Right.
people in my mind are like naive, right? Like, and I go to church every Sunday. I'm, about to be an elder at our church. So it's not like I didn't run from it. It's like, I just embraced it. Like there's, it is what it is. And so God has still been faithful and true and merciful and all the things along that journey.
That's so tough, because it's like what I'm saying. It's like it's only like a handful of individuals that chose to either say something to you, and then maybe like a small group that shunned you. And that's the same thing as like even going back to my example of when I would go to this Bible study. There was the two standout guys that that said, "Hey, this guy, Jesus would take this guy. He'd be with this guy." But as humans, you get these people that kind of they throw a monkey wrench in the whole thing, brother. And like, but it didn't steer you. It didn't take you off your eyes off your faith. And I think, man, that's huge, man. What a blessing that is. Man, but that's cool. And now, so all right. So yeah, they basically cold shouldered you out of that path, right?
Yeah.
But what I say often is like, if God shuts one door, it always hurts, but another one opened up. So, and that was counseling. Am I right?
Yeah. Yeah. One of our pastor friends says, life is a series of painful releases. I got to release this thing in order to get this thing. I got to, if I want this, I got to let go of this. And so that's kind of what it was. I mean, it just kind of accelerated. It was right at the time we were graduating. So I graduated seminary. My wife graduated with her master's in education, and we were in Tennessee. And so we moved back to the Fort Worth area, just kind of not tail between our legs, but just like passionate about starting new life. And, I got my counseling degree and all my licensure, and, she started teaching, and that's where I found treatment. That's like where I started working with my mentor. We have to do 3,000 hours, and he was like, "Hey, I'm starting a rehab," and I'm like, "What's rehab?" And I got my big book, and I started reading the big book for the first time, and talk about intimidating. Sitting in, I'm 25 years old, sitting in a room full of old timers, who've memorized, page 48 through 60, and I'm like trying to exegete it with them. Like I'm going through it and it's like, okay, what does this word mean? Well, I don't think it means that. And they're like, yeah, you don't know anything, young, I got shoes older than you. And I'm like, but this is your ninth time in treatment. Why? Right? Like,
Right.
That was always my ace in the hole. Like,
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So,
yeah, keep going, man.
Yeah, so I learned what treatment looked like, and I learned the steps, and I began to apply them to my own life. And that's where all of those little aha moments were like going, okay, I have to apply this to me before I help apply it to them. And so that was a lot of work, a lot of, just introspection and journaling and therapy kind of stuff. And so like that was a great season for me. And so what I began to see and realize was, I got a room of 12 to 16 guys in a group, and we're going through stuff. And, Jack's over here, telling a story. And I'm like, Jack, when did that happen? He was like, oh, when I was 12. And then Mike over here goes, bro, that's my same story. It happened to me when I was 14, And so those themes kind of continued, to rise up in the group. And the aha moment for me is like, okay, look, I've got this youth pastor calling, and now I got all this clinical experience. How do I smash those things together and go do this thing like on my own? Like, how do I help these people 20 years before they're sitting in this room? And that was kind of the origin story and aha moment of having Clearfork is, like if we can help a 13 or 14 or 15-year-old, just 1 degree of change, like that's all we want. Just 1 degree of change. I know at 35, he's not gonna be the same dude. That's it.
Right.
That's all we want. Right. So we just try to get them off the highway to hell, and onto something different.
Right, man. And so I know that feeling, man. You get in some of those rooms, man, and you got guys in there 20 years sober. And just so I'm clear here, I'm not an AA guy. I didn't go that route, and it was hard for me to be in those rooms. And hey, look, if it works for those guys, that's all that really matters. But
Right.
personally, that the abrasiveness, that kind of like, you don't know me, kid. It's like it happens. I guess it happens. And I'm not trying to judge them. However, it was the reason why I didn't go back. But when you're talking about the youth and it's that small degree of change, that's powerful, right? Because from what you're saying, you understand if you can just set the sails just different enough, man, you magnify that 20 years down the road and you've got an entirely different human. And you mentioned Clearfork, but the audience doesn't know. I kind of read about it shortly, right? Like so Clearfork it's your counseling program, your counseling facility. So let us know more about that.
Yeah. So, the last 7 years, we've worked with teenagers, 13 to 17 years old, struggle with mental health and substance use. And so we have 2 facilities, one for boys, one for girls. They're inpatient. So we have about 80 beds between the 2 campuses. And so we have this continuum of care now with 2 outpatients. So literally they can come in at detox and work their way all the way down. We can have a kiddo in treatment for 6 months and working with us. So doctors, nurses, nurse practitioners, master's level clinicians, and then our daily tech staff. And so, yeah, they live with us for 90 days. And so we go through all the stuff of why in the world are you cutting yourself? Why in the world are you trying to, eat fentanyl till you die? Like all of those things, and get down to the real core of, what's happening with kiddos.
Yeah, man. And so that's a full on facility. So that's the real deal.
130 employees, 24/7, 365.
Wow. Yeah. That is very cool. So what does the outreach look like? I mean, at that size of a place, or that, that volume of an operation, like, do you guys get out there in the city? And then are you still doing boots to ground, or are you kind of like the captain steering the ship, or how does that look like in your life specifically, Austin?
My day to day is very different each day. It's like I have my Clearfork hoodie when I go to campus. You know, last week I was laying in the middle of the driveway with a 16-year-old girl who was trying to run away. Like, I was doing the intervention because I saw her run, and here I go, right? Like, nobody wants to be in treatment. They always want to get out, especially when you get trauma. It was a beautiful moment of just, just speaking life into her. And, she's been good since. Knock on wood, right?
I want to know how did you start? I want to know like what you said first. Like, you're like, okay, I need to be here. But I want to know like the words you chose. Like, I'd be intimidated to see that troubled person, because I'd feel like I couldn't connect.
Yeah. It was a grace-filled moment, and all I said was, I am so sorry you had to go through that. I'm getting emotional now because I could see the look in her eye, because she was laying flat on the ground like, I hate you guys, I'm not going in, like just vile cussing.
Shut down.
Shut down. Yeah. She's been in treatment several times. And then she just started talking, I just kind of hey, just help me understand what's going on. It's just being patient with her and seeing where that energy was coming from. And she just started talking about her mom and being abused and not wanting to go home. And it was just a moment, like, again, a moment of grace. I'm not like an empathetic, touchy feely, like, and I just looked at her square in the eyes. I had to get her to sit up straight and look at me. And I just said, I'm so sorry that happened to you. And tears just started flowing. She's like, I haven't heard those words ever.
Yeah.
And
dude, that's awesome.
Yeah. And at that moment, the next 20 minutes, she was just kind of eating out of my hand. I could, like, if I said jump, she said how high, just because I saw her pain. And she knew it, she felt it. And now we know what to work on. Now we know what to talk about. And she'd been there 2 weeks maybe, and just locked up, just being a mess of a person, and just wanting to get out because she was hopeless. She didn't think anybody would care, anybody would listen.
Yeah.
So we were there. So it was really cool.
I had a moment that was like, in my own journey, I definitely wasn't a teen, but it was a big turning point in both my faith and in my sobriety, even though I didn't get sober the next day, not even the next year. But I had a buddy of mine, I moved across the street, a buddy of mine who was a believer. We grew up together. It's much like you and your friend when you guys were younger. Like, I went one way, he went the other. So, and he would tell me, like, I started reading scripture. That's how I got my act together. And then at that point, he had 3 kids, a wife, and I'm living across the street. He got me a job. I didn't show up. So he comes over, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm drunk, totally drunk, and then he came in, and here we go. He's gonna lay into me. He's gonna tell me, what's your problem? I put my name on the line for it. All this stuff in my head that I thought was going to be the very normal thing. I had a 1.75 of vodka in the little fridge that I had. That was about it. Here I am on the couch, drunk. He came in, he opens the fridge, sees the vodka, and I'm thinking he's going to pour it out down the drain. And here comes the speech. He just kind of said, well, looks like we need to take you grocery shopping. He shut the fridge, came over, he sat down next to me, and he held my hand and he prayed for me. That's the first time anybody held my hand and prayed for me in my life. And so all of a sudden, where I was expecting all this weight, it didn't come.
All the shame.
And the shame and the guilt, all of that, it wasn't there. I was still drunk. I still didn't show up for work, but he changed the course just a few degrees. And like I said, I didn't wake up the next day and say, today's the day I'm getting sober. But it was that, just like you had mentioned, it set the course just a hair, right? Or maybe more, but and then he said, I'll be back in the morning. We're going to get you set up and get you out of here anyway. So it was huge to have somebody one-on-one. He didn't really look me in the eyes. I was pretty drunk, but I remember the feeling, and it was that moment, much like you and this young girl, like it's powerful to just like have somebody just stop what they're doing and legitimately inquire as to what's happening, but they want to talk. Am I right? Like if you get past all the kicking and screaming, a lot of these people, these kids, like they want to tell you, right?
Yeah.
Man, so that operation it's in Fort Worth, right? It's 80 beds, it's huge. And then so how long you been doing this?
Yeah, we started in 2016, with the property and acquisition and all that kind of stuff, and then took our first kid in 17. So, we started with 8 beds, and my wife and I sold everything we owned. We moved out lived on the campus. We had like 3 houses. So we lived in one with 3 kids under 3 years old. My wife is a saint. And kids lived in the other one. We had offices in the third house. And so it's just blossomed in that, tenfold for the last, 7 years or so. It's been a wild ride.
Dude, the courage that it takes on your wife's part and your part, but that's I think, man, that's a story for the ages, man.
Yeah.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
So all right, we've heard that where you're calling it like it's stemmed from. Let me ask you a quick question, man. What's going on with the family these days? Like if you had mentioned there were so many players or family members, if you will,
Yeah.
in this addiction game, how's that? Do you have a relationship with them? Do they know what you're doing? Do you speak to them? How's it look?
That's a great question. I've been estranged from my dad for almost 12 years. Parents got divorced. Both of them got remarried. Then my brother passed away. My dad got divorced. And both of them have just kind of led their lives. But yeah, right after my son was born, my daughter, we have 8, 10, and 12. So my son was born, then my daughter was born. And that's like the last time I saw my dad up until about 6 months ago. He just showed back up on the scene. I mean, ice cold, nothing for 10 whole years. No cards, no birthdays, no nothing. Moved apparently to Arkansas, North Georgia. And like that. There's some mental health stuff going on there. And my mom lives, 20 minutes away, and that's where my 3 kids are now. And so she does overnights with them once a month. And so she's pretty integrated in our life. Her feet are, she got past my brother dying. It's been 21 years. So there's been a lot of that. So, but yeah, we see her every week. So that's pretty much the extent. I don't have a whole big extended family, my cousins, and, I like to be around healthy people. Let's just say that. Like, I like, right. I tell my kids all the time, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. And so we have a big church family and stay plugged in that way. And then my wife, she's a twin and has a little sister. And so they're all from Atlanta, but now one's in Denver, one's in Branson. So, that's where we do Thanksgiving and Christmas, and they, have been redemptive in seeing what a good family unit could look like.
Right. So your dad shows up though, man. I'm very curious.
Yeah.
Are you going down that path? I know that you mentioned you want healthy people around you. Is he in that category, or is he kind of back at arm's length for the sake of your children?
Yeah. Well, he hasn't met any of them.
Okay. Yeah.
He showed back up, and we had lunch, and it was just the oddest thing. It was not what I expected. Not at all what I expected. It was totally out of left field, a lot of blame, and no, I want to hear the words, "Hey, I didn't talk to you for 10 years because," right? And
right.
We've had lunch 3 times over the course of 6 months, and we're not even like remotely close to. I'm gonna have to say it out loud, and I just, at some point, I'm like, "What's the point?" Right? Because it's just not, he just wants to move on and ignore it. And it's not that there's not unforgiveness, because man, I've written the letters over years of, things and done all my work. I mean, that's what I do is help young men restore their relationships with their fathers, because, that's part of the problem, of mental health and substance use. So it's like, I know the playbook, I guess.
Right.
And I know that well's kind of empty. So it's,
Well, hey, you're doing the work, man. It's so amazing like that. I mean, because It's a lot easier to say, well, you do as I say, not as I do, which I can't stand that kind of thing. But here you are. I mean, and this is current. This is happening.
Yeah,
Am
yeah,
I right? Like,
yeah,
yeah. And that was a loaded question on my end. It was a loaded question because my mother is to my knowledge, still actively using and still drinking, mentally ill. Like when I say mentally ill, nothing's necessarily clinical because she's never gone down a formal path of help. But she had me sent to jail. She accused me of trying to murder her.
Hmm.
Heavy, heavy stuff. And so I will do that thought exercise of what would I do if she showed up on my doorstep? And so, and that's why I said it was a loaded question because, like, I mean, I don't have an answer. I
Yeah,
really don't. And
yeah,
part of that is because the likelihood of that happening is like it's very low. Like she's not even she's not even on the radar of seeking help, asking help, or any of that, right? But
sure.
nonetheless, though, I go over like, what would I do? And I know I would be in the same boat as yourself in that I'd be wanting her to say things. I'd be wanting her to like, I don't know. And then of course, anyway, these are a bunch of hypotheticals, right? But you
Yeah,
know, bless you for having those lunches, man. And I'll pray for you that something then that God has some kind of a answer there, or
yeah.
either his end or your end. Who knows what he has for that relationship, brother. But that's a big thing, and it's happening. That's happening in your life. I could see. It's like
Yeah,
it's
it's there, man. It's just kind of a quandary. It's if life wasn't as full, it would take up a lot of mental space, but life is real full, and so it gets backburnered or suppressed or whatever psychological coping mechanism you want to add to it. But yeah,
right.
it's still there.
Yeah, you seem like a smart guy, and then like because sometimes people really I've had people give me a hard time, like, well, you need to go heal that relationship, and I'm like, okay, well, when I go down that road of thinking that I need to go heal the relationship with my mother, I'm
Yeah,
thinking I could take that same energy and I can help somebody that's been there, or somebody that is willing or wants to get better. Like, so you got to weigh the cost and benefit analysis, right? And it's like, you got all these young kids, you've got these lives that are just, and again, this influence that you have in these teenagers' lives is massive, right? So, I mean, I'm with you on like, okay, what am I going to go pour everything I got into this relationship that maybe I make no difference, and
yeah. There's no
so
ROI. You kind of know that well is dry. So it's like, what's the return on investment there? And I've done this work for 20 years, and I can look at somebody and go, it's not gonna make a big difference.
and some people that don't they're not familiar, they might think that's cold, but it's just
Right.
you've got to really think like,
Yeah.
well, like, is this person gonna do their part, or is it just
Right.
a lost cause and I'm burning up valuable resources, time, and energy and love, right? Like, so man, that is it is always it's a computation that I respect you for being a professional and knowing like when and where the best place
Mhm.
is for your energy. But speaking about when and where and energy, what do you got going on for the future, brother? Like, what do you what's for Clearfork? What are your plans? Or what do you got going on? What's on the horizon? Are you guys just going to grow that larger, or what does it look like in the future of Clearfork?
Yeah, so in this past year, we added a couple beds to each campus. We did some remodel. Again, the phone continues to ring. Our challenge is hiring nurses and staff to keep, to take care of kids. And so I think that's the nationwide issue. So the more staff, the more kids we can help because the phone keeps ringing. We added those 2 outpatients this year. We really want to see those kind of grow because, I guess the phrase is an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, right? So if we can get our kids early, they don't have to go to detox. Or our kids who have gone through our program can now step down and have, their hands held or the training wheels for 3 to 6 months after being inpatient. And they can continue. It's like, we laugh and call it Hotel California. You can come in, but you can never leave. Once you get the hoodie, you're part of the family, man. Like we have kids that we just had a mom, Texas, kid's been out for like 5 years. He's going to Oklahoma. He's going to be he's going to work at NASA, like all these cool stuff, and like, that's our kid, that's that 1 degree of change over time. He's put in the reps and doing great. Yeah, the goal is just to continue, man. Continue to grow. We have some big, hairy, audacious goals of maybe Houston or Colorado, or like taking this hub and spoke thing that we got and making it available to kids. I mean, we take kids from all over the nation, but a lot of families want to drive 30 minutes instead of get on a plane. You know, there's a lot of big metro areas with a lot of kids who need help.
You know, there has been I think there's been a lot of attention, policymakers, government, things of that nature, in the real like ROI, like what you're saying about getting started early to prevent the rehab, and because it's a massive and costly machine of people that are not well out there. Once that ball is rolling, man, it is tough to really get in front of it and make a difference. And I think I've read a lot of there's a lot of information out there. Like I said, a lot of attention on like, man, if we get into the communities, if we get in there early, the savings like on the back end there is massive, massive, massive. And so I think that I'm going to pay attention, and I think that's awesome that you're on the forefront of it, right? Like here you are, you're a pioneer in the space with the youth, but I also know that like it's not an easy thing to really grow, right? There's a lot of stuff when you're doing it right. Am I right? Like you added 2 beds. There's a process, and it's not as easy as when you add 2 beds, like wheel in 2 cots. Like, all right, 2 more.
It
like,
takes 6 months to do that. You got to go through all the red tape in the state, and they move slow, right? Like, so it's all the bureaucratic stuff that we have to navigate to grow.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that you're doing it right, man, and I'd love to see that for your future, and who knows what the Lord has for these for the facility for Clearfork, and then like maybe some other locations, because like you said, if you can get closer to the problem, like geographically, sometimes you can make more of an influence, man. Dude, hey, listen, I got to be honest, man. I'm really excited for that. Not to be weird or anything, but like I wish I had a guy like you when I was younger, right? Like obviously that's all a sunk cost, but you being there and having such an influence in these kids' lives, man, is a true blessing, brother. But yeah, man. So where can everybody find you? Just real quick, and I'm gonna put like websites and social tags, all that stuff, like when we go live. But you just kind of let everybody know what the best route to come and find you is, come see you or get more information. Where should they go?
Yeah, clearforkacademy.com. I mean, that's got everything. It's got our values, how we do treatment. Top right-hand corner is a phone number that rings to our assessment team. So my call to every person who's like struggling is, man, don't wait. Like, the snowball's just going to get bigger every single day. So if it's mom, a dad, a kid, we've got nationwide resources. So our team is trained to help, kind of do all that stuff. And then kind of maybe a surprise, I just clicked on Amazon yesterday for the first time, and my book is online. It's called My Kid, My Crisis. And so I just chronicled stories over the last decade of families and kids, and then how I would treat them or how we did treat them. And so it's kind of a biography, kind of a textbook. And so kind of weave those things together and just kind of short stories. We follow kind of some case studies. And so be a good resource for anybody who's like, what am I doing with this kid? Like, how do I help?
Right.
him?
My Kid, My Crisis, right?
Yes, sir.
Man. By Austin Davis. Dude, dude, that is cool, man. But you're hiding that from me. What the heck is you like? You're like, oh, by the way, I got a book. It's like,
yeah,
that is very cool. That is very cool. And it's on Amazon. Congratulations on the facility, but also being an author. That's really awesome, man. So I thank you so much, Austin, for being on The Next Fix.
Ryan, this was fun, man. Thank you for asking the hard questions, man. You turned tables on me today.
Man. All right, brother. Well, I'll talk to you soon, guys. Until the next episode, we'll see you then.